Stephen Squibbs presents this month's board certification tip.
All right, now we have our monthly section of our board certified tip of the month, and we have an exciting guest today. She is the president of the Palm Beach Bar Association and one of our most recently board certified family law attorneys, Julia Wyda. Welcome to our little CLE.
Thank you for having me, Eddie. I am so happy to do anything I can to help other people pass this exam.
It is a crazy exam, but very passable. I think it's hard, but I think a lot of people get scared because there's that stigma that it's too hard. But after you took it and you passed, do you think it's a fair test?
I think there are a lot of challenging components to this exam. For me, the most challenging is the time. There is a lot of time pressure on this exam. And I think in your preparation for taking the exam, you should try to time yourself and get used to the fact that this is really a test of how quickly you can get down all of the stuff you know. And if you are prepared for that, it'll make it feel less stressful as you're taking the exam. Many people have had to take this exam more than once, including me, and there is no shame in that. And for the young women with children, I want you to know that this is definitely doable. And if you approach it as a learning process, this is something that will only increase your practice and make you a better lawyer.
Julia, we've already interviewed like 6 or 7 folks that passed this year, and they have all said the same thing: time management. And some folks don't even have time to finish the multiple choice. They run out of time of essays. So it's really important to be able to get this stuff out on a paper. And just out of curiosity, when you wrote your answers, were they in a narrative form, or did you do something a little more casual, like just listing things? How do you approach writing your answers?
So I tried to stylistically write in a way that I thought that the exam reviewers would know that I understood the material. I am a good writer. They would get all of that. The problem I had is I would start that way, and then with the time crunch, by the end, it became more like bullet points. But I would add in some explanation, so it wasn't just bullet points. There was something else there, some substance with it. But that is how I started each of my essays, in an actual paragraph form. I was thinking about not only the content, but the style of it. I was really trying to do the best job I could.
And approaching the studying of this test, and they give you the core and the subcore, and it's really everything, right? Everything that they tell you to study is going to be tested. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I studied everything.
So how did you approach that?
Okay. So I had watched all of your case law updates and all of your interviews with the people who had taken the exam and passed. And one of the common things I heard was, go back to what you had done during law school and undergrad. And so in law school and undergrad, I tended to read things 2 to 3 times and really think them through. And I know in our professional lives, we don't have that kind of time, but I tried to incorporate that. So starting right after July 4th, I celebrated July 4th with my family. I have a 4-year-old daughter. We all celebrated together. And then I started to really focus on studying. And I started with, they'll tell you 2 years of the Florida Law Weeklies. I actually did 3 years. And I very actively read all of the cases. I was highlighting, I was writing notes in the margins. I was making note cards based on the things that I was learning. I actually have like a shoebox full of note cards while I was doing that. And what I was finding as I was reading those cases is common things were coming up. There were common issues, common patterns. So I had a notebook that I would keep beside me, and I would write down all of these things. So sometimes it was a conflict in the DCAs. Sometimes it was an issue that was recurring. And I just kept this beside me. By the end of all of my studying, I had about 45 of these common issues, patterns, themes, whatever they were. And Eddie, I believe that most of these things were tested on the exam in some way, whether it was short answer, whether it was multiple choice, or somehow on the essay. A lot of this stuff was picked up on. And then I also kind of did the same thing with all of the statutes and the rules. I very actively read, I highlighted, I had note cards. I would keep in my notebook, if I noticed that there was a statute that changed or a rule that changed, I would write that down in my notebook, and I'd have this list of everything I knew that had changed in the last year. And then I would memorize all of that and just keep reading, keep reading, keep reading. I did not outline every topic. I know most people will tell you to do that. I did not do that. And then as we got to the Cert review course, I started to focus more and more on the red books. So I found the red books, there were certain things that weren't in depth enough. So this time around, I added a new material. I added this yellow book. And if there was an area that I wasn't totally sure about, I would read the entire section on it. And I think reading it and hearing it in a different way, and some of this is a little more in depth than what the red books have from the Cert review course, I think that helped. It's just digesting it to the best of your ability. However you do that for yourself, I personally think this helped me. I also used this book. I thought this had a little bit more depth than the Cert review materials. I think they're all excellent. And for me, all of them helped me to get a really good understanding. And then Maria Gonzalez and Abigail Beebe had said something about once you've finished studying a certain area, try to write down everything you've learned about that area so it's crystal clear. And I did that for all the core topics. So I might not have outlined per se, but I had these little summaries that toward the end, the last few days before the exam, those summaries and a few of my note cards, that was all I was using. And then I was kind of like speaking it out with myself and expanding on it and just like quizzing myself. So I fully got it.
I agree that reading the Florida Law Weeklies, as you know, is a great component of learning and staying on top of the law. It's not the only thing I do, but it's the primary source, and just having exposure to it every week, because I read it every week, at least the family cases. You're right, those trends become very apparent. Would you read the Florida Law? Did you subscribe to the Florida Law Weeklies and read them weekly, or?
Yeah, so I used 18, 19, and then I got the draft bound copy of 20. That's what I did, and I used all of them, and you can see everything is very tabbed up. And what we actually did is I was lucky enough to have two study partners, Cash Eaton and Grant Gisondo, and we used some of these cases. I would make copies of just the fact pattern, and then I would put in, the trial court ruled X, and then we would make our own short answers, and we get on Zoom and we time ourselves, because the time is really an issue. We time ourselves and we try to get through it, and then we talk it through a little. And I think that was really helpful. That was something I had never done in the past. So I do think that having study partners, if you really like them, know them, trust them, they all pull their own weight, then maybe that's something for you.
So starting the summer before, I guess it's like 8 or 9 months of a study regimen, how many hours total do you think you put into it the year you passed?
So during this exam, I went online and bought something that looks like this. It's a calendar. It's 1 page per month. And I would also keep this in my study area, and I would log all my hours. I was at around 400 hours of studying. I know that sounds ridiculous, but Grant went all in.
Grant says he was at 500. So he's the furthest amount that I've gotten. And most people say it's somewhere between 100 and 400 hours. And it's to have these initials, it's, it's significant. And I served, when I served on the board, the committee, and it's a bunch of humans that are not we're not professional test writers. We're just family lawyers that make up this exam. And serving on the committee, I probably learned more about family law just because it was such an intense experience.
Mhm.
So if anyone is looking for a committee to serve on and you're board certified, the most rewarding and challenging committee I've ever served on is the board cert committee. But as they're humans, they sometimes don't get it right. And did you ever take a look at your previous test?
Yes, and I appealed in the past. I didn't go all the way up like Jacqueline and Megan did, but I did appeal and just kind of got a response that was, you didn't pass.
So did you find a benefit in reading the test answers?
I did. And I could see what they were testing, and I could see that in the time allotted, I was struggling to get down everything they were covering. I mean, those model answers, they're very, very in depth. And the time that's allotted on the exam, it is very hard to accomplish that.
Well, and reading those answers actually helped you the next year?
Yes.
And
This whole process, I mean, I would say anybody who's going to take it and you're afraid of failing, don't be afraid to fail. I mean, you are honestly going to learn so much. You're going to become a better lawyer. Your practice is going to be better. I mean, there's so many reasons to just do it despite the fear of failure. And there's a lot of, fear-based stuff that happens at the tips and nibbles course and all of that. Just block that out. This past year, I basically went to the course, but did not listen. I was doing work. I was reading cases. I did not listen to what they said. I just tried to stay positive. Jeff Weissman had talked to a group of us, a small group of us, and just kind of reiterated how important it is to stay positive. And I took that to heart. And I basically did everything I could to keep the people around me and myself as positive as possible about this. So whether that means you have friends who keep your spirits high and make you laugh, be with those people, keep them in your life while you study. If that means that you enjoy yoga and meditating because it keeps you calm and keeps you positive and keeps your outlook positive, then do that. If there are affirmations or power posing, whatever you have to do, you have to stay positive, because the reality is there is a psychological component to this exam. It is almost like mental warfare. We are all good lawyers. We all work hard. Everybody's studying. The percentage rate is ridiculous. And so you're going in knowing this is a battle and not everyone's going to pass it. So stay positive. I really think that was another key piece of why I passed this year, because I did make that a priority after I spoke with Jeff Weissman.
That's a great tip. And I think, we have a self-fulfilling prophecy at times, and there's so many people that do kind of fear-based mongering about this test that really prohibits people from even signing up to take it.
Mhm.
And like you said, when I sat and actually studied for it, it made me a much better attorney. Whether I passed the test or not, just going through that knowledge and, forcing yourself to do that immersive dive into family law, I think that's, no matter what, it's a win situation. So there's the positivity right there. You're going to be a better lawyer whether you have these initials at the end of your name or not.
And there's something personal that comes with this experience too. If you have to take it more than once and you persevere, you come out of it not only feeling like it's a professional success, but like personally, I feel very proud to have survived all of this and just kept pushing through. You almost feel unstoppable. And I think that is in and of itself the win, right?
Well, overcoming trauma can make you very resilient and almost give you superpowers. So I'm glad you have taken the reins, Julia, and I see what you're doing with everything in Palm Beach and the vision you have, especially, for working moms that are lawyers. And, you're an example that it can be done and done with grace.
Thank
So,
you.
so congratulations on being one of the ones that passed. We're all trying to get this passage rate up, and the purpose of these little chats are to take away the mystique of the test and to, let everybody know, yeah, it's a tough test, but if I can pass it, certainly, all you have to do is figure out how you learn the material and put in the effort. And it might take more than one time. And if you have that expectation, you're not going to get crushed, but as family law attorneys, we get crushed all the time. So
We can do it.
but this is kind of personal. I get that. So Julia, any last tips you want to give our listeners? And also thank you for subscribing to our CLE series. You have been one of our biggest supporters, and we really appreciate you very much.
I do think the case law updates are very helpful. The more you listen to other people talk about the cases and you hear it from a different angle. So I really think this is very, very helpful for people who want to take the exam.
Well, Julia, thank you for your positive messages and your time today. And hopefully these words will encourage and help other people with this obstacle.
Yes.
Julia, have a great day.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us for this month's edition of Stephen Squibb's Monthly Family Law CLE. We hope to see you again next month. In the meantime, do something that matters. Visit www.eddiestevens.com for more information.